Hi, everybody. Sandy and I are here. We are jumping on a little bit early in case, so we can just get to know everybody, say hello, excuse the crazy glare on my glasses. I need to keep them on right now so that I can also see your questions that you might have popping up or say hello to anybody. I also have to apologize for my slightly scratchy throat. You're all going to be very glad that we weren't scheduled to start broadcasting on Tuesday because I would have had to mime the entire thing for you. I had no voice at all, for which my staff was very grateful, but this works a little bit better with a voice. So hope you all are well. I just want to give a shout out to Natalie, who was actually one of, I think, the first 3 subscribers to the event today, and then unexpectedly had to miss it to get a doctor's appointment for her son because he's sick. And I think we all know that it is easier to get a grant approved than to get a same-day appointment with a doctor.
Oh,
so we will give Natalie a pass, and hopefully she'll get a chance to listen to this on the replay. That's the word I'm looking for, the replay. And also Elizabeth had to miss because she was going to a meeting. So Elizabeth, I hope your meeting is as much fun as we will have today on the broadcast. So we will just hang out. I just want to say hi to Erin, who is here from New York City. Hi, Erin. I was just in New York City 2 weeks ago. I love it. And we have, looks like Null from Hickory, North Carolina. Awesome. Love North Carolina. You're probably a little warmer here than we're starting to get here. Oh, no, it's Mandy. Sorry, I'm looking. I was thinking, when did you see Null? Mandy. All right, hopefully I will remember to see that. Mandy, I'm glad you managed to get logged in. So I guess we'll be waiting for a couple of other people to log on and say hello. I'm Beth Brodowski, for anybody that's here. Sandy's down there in the tiny corner. Say hi, Sandy. There's Sandy. It switches back and forth when each of us talks, so you'll see us popping in and out. We had a lot of fun planning this and putting it together, and we got a lot of really good questions. I was actually starting to get a little nervous that maybe this wasn't the right topic. About maybe a week and 2 days ago, when we had all of one question in the blog. So I thought, well, maybe Sandy and I are crazy, and people don't have any questions about this. And then Sunday night, maybe Monday came, and everything changed. So there's plenty of questions that are already queued up. We're going to have a lot of fun answering them. And we will just hang out. People should be joining us, hopefully, in the next few minutes. You know, we're not going to really know exactly when people are live. You'll see a little bit when people join on. And I'm just going to change a couple of the settings here just to make sure things are good. And Carla, if that is you jumping on, actually you don't want to be on here in the Hangout. Make sure you're looking at it over on the other page because I'm going to be blocking people from jumping on in the Hangout. Thanks, Carla. There we go. So you're still there, right?
Yeah, I'm right here.
All right, that's good. I just want to make sure I don't block the wrong people. That's one of the tricky things. This is actually the first time Sandy and I have used Google Hangouts to do a webinar like that. Oh, there's some more people jumping on. Susan Goldstein from Florence, South Carolina, from the Boys and Girls Club. Thanks, Sandy, for logging in. Erica is jumping on from Georgia. We have a good, Sandy, you're in good company.
Woo.
I think that so far the South is winning out here. I pretty much do things with Sandy for 2 reasons. One is that she's brilliant and really clever, and one is because I absolutely love to hear her talk. Sandy is from Tennessee.
That's right.
We have a north and south thing going. I'm here in Philadelphia today. How's the weather down there in Tennessee, Sandy?
It is beautiful. It's sunny. It's coolish. It's probably 60-ish degrees. It's gorgeous.
Wow. Well, shockingly, we're actually having about the same weather here in Philadelphia. We've had a really, really lovely run of it. And I know when it started because, as you know, my son got married in an outdoor wedding this year in June. So
Yeah.
I was on a weather watch very intently through the month of June, and it's stayed great. So we've got 4 more minutes here before we're going to get started. I have no idea how many people are going to be logging on. Tracy's on. Hi, Tracy. Don't know where you're from. Tracy, where are you from? Obviously you're from the Preeclampsia Foundation, but where are you today? And I apologize for having to keep turning my head. I have to have the questions on a separate computer so that I can run the webinar when it starts up. So this is terrific. We have about 200 people, almost 200 people signed up.
Wow, that's great.
And the biggest little pre-tip I would give you all before it even starts is, and I'm sure any of you that run events might know this, Sandy, you've probably run and been involved in events.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, people do sign up at the last minute. So, the reality is you're not going to really change people's behavior. You don't have any control over that. So the best thing I would recommend is that's when you need to market the heck out of things. We obviously, as I'm sure many of you saw, sent a lot of emails. I only sent a couple of emails 2 weeks ago, and we really ramped everything up in the last week. But honestly, I don't think it would have made a difference. I think people really like something's coming up, especially something like this, a free webinar, to be able to jump on at the last minute. Sandy, have you seen that kind of thing too?
Absolutely. Almost everything that we do, and with a lot of the nonprofit groups that I work with, I tell them the same thing. Push the ticket sales right at the end because a lot of people wait to the last minute to decide if they're going to do something or not. So I think the world is full of last minute Lucy and Larry.
Right, and I know it's because people have lots of things going on their schedule. They don't really know if they can be involved. They're interested in the topic, but things come up. That stuff happens. But people are less comfortable committing to something too far in advance, and that's okay. The key thing is that you have to make sure you're really, really marketing things heavily at the end, and don't worry. Right before we jumped on, there were about 185 people registered for the webinar today, and on Friday, when I went home, there were 15. So Sandy and I were pretty much thinking it was going to be the two of us here. Anyway, not that we don't have plenty of things to talk about.
That's right. It's all good.
So we have a couple more people jumping onto the chat. Kobe, hi, from Alberta. Love Canada. My father-in-law's from Winnipeg. And Stephanie, hi Stephanie. Stephanie and I actually were emailing back and forth from Indiana. And I think Stephanie, Stephanie, are you the one that met, that actually got a chance to meet Sandy? I think at her last event. That might be you, if I'm remembering correctly. Or maybe that's Karen. I can't remember. We've got a lot of might have been Karen. Okay, so we've got some really great people, and I really am thrilled that you guys jumped on here today. So what we're going to do. I'm going to wait another minute before I give what we're going to do so that nobody misses out. So let me make sure I have everything. All right. Well, it is officially 3 o'clock. So hopefully we've got a bunch of great people on the listening in, if not asking on the Q&A, and that's totally fine. We're going to, Sandy and I, that's Sandy down in the corner, I've been chit-chatting with people. I'm going to jump over and turn our slides on now so that we can kind of do the official introduction and give you the way things are going to go today. So just give me 1 second. Oh, let's introduce ourselves. I am Beth Brodowski. I am the president of Iris Creative Group. I am the founder of Nonprofit Toolkit, and I host a podcast called Driving Participation. Iris Creative is a marketing communications firm. We do custom work, creating marketing, graphic design, creative work for all kinds of nonprofit schools and associations. We were doing a lot of that work and realized that people sometimes had a need for immediate things or quick downloads or just-in-time marketing. So we launched about a year ago Nonprofit Toolkit to have ready-made tools for you. And we're going to be adding some classes as we go on into 2015. And then just in June, I started a podcast called Driving Participation to help organizations literally learn what's going on in different organizations. So I just wanted to make sure that we are sharing that kind of thing, getting the message out to everybody, and then I'm going to let Sandy introduce herself while I check to make sure that the slides are actually displaying on the screen.
Awesome.
Well,
Sure. I'm Sandy Reese. I am the CEO of Get Fully Funded. We help organizations raise money. And our office dog is gone to greet somebody. Um, so we work with a lot of small organizations to help them raise money, do more good in the world, and save more lives. We focus on several different small niches, but mostly what we're about is fundraising.
There'll be a little bit of a delay, and then you will see it come up, I hope. So we're going to start. The only slides you're really going to see are going to be our questions. So what we're going to do is we are going to move through a bunch of the questions that you asked online. And the very first question that was asked was from Stephanie. And her first question is annual appeal versus end of year appeal. Same, different, both. What is it? That's a great question, Stephanie, and I really put this first because that's something that actually Sandy and I talk about a lot, about whether the annual appeal is the same thing as a year-end appeal. So Sandy, why don't you jump in and answer that one?
Sure. I think it's very interesting. A lot of people focus on annual appeal, and the thing is, you really should be asking lots of different times during the year. So if you have it in your head that you only have to ask once a year, you need to change that. End of the year appeal I think of as a way to ask people right before December 31st to give them that one last shot at making a gift. For some organizations, the annual appeal and the end of year might be the same, but again, I really don't want you thinking that you only have to ask one time a year, because the truth is you probably have donors who give to you in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and year end. If you're not asking enough, you're leaving money on the table.
Right. I completely agree, Sandy. And I always try and say that, you know, the end of year is one of the annual appeal mailings or one of the annual appeal initiatives, however you end up doing it. And that the annual appeal really means that's the funds that you need to operate for this annual year. It's not a annual meeting you ask once a year mailing. So that's a great guideline, I think, for people to go with. So the next question was from Angela. And Angela says that I am a new executive director and the only paid staff member at my organization. I'm sure many of you listening can relate to that. Her organization was without an executive director for 10 months, and then during that time the board went through a strategic planning process. There's not much to say about what the organization did this year. However, the need we serve is great. Any tips about crafting our annual appeal? And I'm sure that Sandy and I would agree, there is things that you did this year. Obviously, you did some strategic planning, but really, your annual appeal it's not the same thing as an annual report. And I find a lot of organizations sort of get those two concepts flip-flop back in their heads, that they think of their annual appeal as, here's the report on all of the things that we did, and here's what it all summed up to. That's an annual report. It's actually a different thing. Your annual appeal is your ask, your emotional reason why you can connect people to your cause and what you're going to be doing with that money going forward. So for what I would suggest to you, Angela, is don't even focus on what you did last year. Focus on why your organization exists, who it's there to serve, and what you are capable of doing for them because your donors care. If your donors care and if your donors are interested in your organization, not in your organization, in your cause, not in you, in your cause, that you can facilitate helping them get that. Talk about that. Sandy, would you add anything to that?
I'm going to echo that. I work with a lot of organizations that are very small and some that are even just getting started, and this is almost the same thing they ask of me. And they say, well, what do we say to people if we haven't done much yet? You talk about what you're going to do. You talk about your plans. You talk about the need and how you're going to change people's lives. And that's a good enough message to put out there.
Fabulous. So this is a great question from Karen, and I think Karen met Sandy maybe a week or so ago at an event. Karen is a part of a brand new rescue with no donor database and no funds. And you know, people, Sandy, Karen, we've all been there. Like, everyone's been in that position where you're starting up. Sandy, I'm sure you've been there. I've never actually been involved in a nonprofit. Well, I was, but as an employee. Sandy's actually been in that situation of having to fundraise. Right now, everything's coming out of our own pockets. What should we do right now to get started and take advantage of year-end giving? So, Karen, I wanted to say, Karen actually and I emailed a little bit back and forth, and she sent me a couple of samples of her things, which I think will be helpful for everyone listening, and if we can take a look at where Karen is now. And I have to say, I don't know why I'm advancing my slide, and then it seems to be advancing on its own, so I apologize for that. So looking at Karen's site, and Sandy and I have had a chance to talk a little bit about what Karen said. Sandy, you're the rescue girl. This is your world. You do a lot in this thing, so why don't you take this one?
Sure. So when you don't have a lot of money to spend, clearly you don't want to go into debt to try to do fundraising. You're going to do what you can with what you have. In other words, if you've got a Facebook presence and you've been building up your community, then you're going to ask those people to support you. You're going to look for opportunities where you can go get in front of people who are going to be very likely to care. Now, one of the things you have to understand is not everybody in the community is going to care about your cause. I know in my world that's blasphemous that people wouldn't care, but it's true. Not everybody gives to charity, and then if people who do give, they have their favorite causes. So what you have to figure out is who are the people who are most likely to care about what we're doing and how can we get in front of them. That may mean that you've got to get really creative and do some brainstorming about your ideal donor, your ideal prospect, and where they hang out. Again, go back and look at where you already are kind of congregating with people, if that's on Facebook, if it's on Twitter, wherever you already are finding people, get in front of them, tell them what you're doing, ask them to support your organization. Every big organization started as a small one at one point, and they did this adding donors one at a time. Mailings and annual appeals are going to come in real handy when you start to get larger numbers of people in your donor family and building your database. But for now, every dollar counts, every donor counts, so just figure out where you can go get in front of the right people and ask them to give. Now, Karen, this may be at adoption events. It may be if you are doing something at Petco or PetSmart. Those may be great places for you to do that. You may even want to see if there's a local veterinarian, a groomer, somebody else where your ideal prospects are already congregating, and you can go get in front of them there and ask them to give.
Those are really great ideas, Sandy. And Karen, the only other thing that I would add, looking at your webpage, you also sent me a donor page, but I couldn't find how that page was linked to this website. If I was coming to this as a home page, I mean, you clearly have the emotional thing down. That is an adorable picture, which is a key thing. But your links at the top, you do have one that says how you can help. At the moment, it doesn't go anywhere. My guess is you're still working on it, so don't worry. I'm not getting hard to you on that. But the one thing I would say is how you can help is very broad. It's very, you could do anything here. You don't have anything on this page that says, give us money. I would put a really clear donate button, like just donate button, so people understand what you want from them. Right away up front. You might even, I don't know if you can in your template here, maybe even put it like right on the bottom, like under your little statement there about that you're committed to the community, like right in that sort of transparent bar. That would be, so the first thing I would do is get a donate button onto this page. The second thing, obviously you've got to do exactly what Sandy said, work your group. But I can see from what you're doing now, you are spending a lot of time working in your social media community, and there's no email link that I can see on this page. So I don't know if you have email marketing yet. The one thing that I would advise you, and we've got some email questions coming up later, do not ignore email. Even just for this little event, I posted all over social media. I'm sure I got links and people coming to me and coming to it from from social media. But I can tell you hands down, being able to market directly to names that I can control, having them in my database, being able to email who I want, where I want, when I want, about what I want, and be sure that that message is going to get in front of them, trumps the hope of social media and building your home on rented land any day of the week as far as a long-term plan. So I would just want to put that out there. Okay, so moving on. From Christine. What is the ideal time to send a mailed year-end? appeal. We intend to drop November 3rd. Okay, so they're dropping means that they're putting it in the mail in case anybody is new to mailing. So dropping something is it's going into the mail stream. So that means from the time it goes to the mail to the time it gets to somebody. If you're sending first class mail, that can be anywhere between 2 and 5 days. But if you're using a nonprofit rate, like a nonprofit bulk mail, you're going to save a ton of money on your mailing, but it could be 1 to 2 and actually on up to 3 weeks before it can even get there sometimes, depending on how you do it. So you have to know that if they're going to mail by November 3rd, it will hit mailboxes a little bit after that. It can take a little while to get there. You don't have the same guaranteed it'll be there in 3 or 4 days like first class mail. So that's something to always think about when you're looking at the time versus saving money thing. So the next thing is she wants to get ahead of the holiday mail. Is this too early? And then, of course, they're going to follow up. So, Sandy, what do you think about that timing as far as mailing it? Sandy, do I still have you there? Hopefully I have not lost Sandy. So that's always an interesting thing. So I'm just going to check and see. Sandy, are you still there? Hopefully that's not going to be a problem. So I apologize for that if Sandy is lost. Hopefully she'll be able to log back on. So I will answer it then and say that I think that's great timing. Honestly, my belief is that you can mail your letter anywhere between middle of October and up to the middle of December. So I don't think that that's a problem. I think if you get too close to actual Christmas, you might be hitting a problem. If you are further away, you have opportunities to do second and supplementary asks. So that can all be really, really helpful. So I'm going to move on to the next question. Okay, so should the end of the year theme be a holiday theme? So I think that there's options. Now, I'm a firm believer in a themed annual appeal, in something that's more than just a letter with your logo on it. I know a lot of people do it. There are many people that are in the camp of it's all about the story and it's all about the words and it should just be a plain and simple thing working for you. Honestly, that can work. If your stories are great, if your writing is great, that can work great, especially for that letter. Where that sometimes becomes a challenge is trying to communicate all year long, trying to communicate in a year-round way. If you're going to be doing a fall mailing and then be able to do a spring mailing to back it up, it's sort of like, hey, here's a new mailing, and you've got to think through the things again. You've got to reconnect people with your story and what you're doing. It can be very, very helpful to come up with a theme. So your end of year mailing, if you have a holiday theme, people tend to open it, it's festive, but you can also get kind of caught up in the other holiday mail. You can also, it depends on who your audience is are they people that celebrate those same end of year holidays? Some people feel really great about getting something with snow and festiveness and holiday stuff. But in other cases, the famous end of year holidays are often Christian holidays. So look at your donor base and just think about whether a holiday theme thing will inspire them and get them to open something and make them feel like, wow, it's the holidays. We really want a theme based on the holidays, or whether you'd be better off as an organization with something that's more, has more longevity and can take you through the entire year. What types of follow-up do you recommend? So I'm really sorry that Sandy's not actually on here with me as well. And but the types of follow-up we recommend are absolutely the full circle. An integrated marketing program is really the way to go. If you need to be able to get your website, your email, and your social media sort of all involved in the kind of communications you're doing. So coordinating it can be hard. So at a minimum, I really think that you should have an annual appeal section. So you're going to have a donate or a giving section on your website, and then you will want to have eventually get to the point where there's some pages underneath of that. To have a page underneath of it that talks specifically about your annual giving, your annual appeal, what that money goes to, what it's about, can be very helpful. Some organizations will have a button or a box, or if you have those big sliders on the top of your page, you can make one of those sliders about the fact that it's your annual appeal season right now, or your end of year ask is out right now. So getting your website involved, ultimately getting your website to the point where it's built so that it's really well connected through from your social, your email, can all drive to that giving page, drive to that connection, and then make the actual online gift for anybody that wants to do things online. Your email newsletter, one of the things I recommend there is we actually kind of create a designed little donate now button that you can use as an ad, or like as a little box for the entire, you can put it on for the entire year. Have a little box. If you have a theme, have this little graphic that says, donate now. And it's all designed and themed to look like your annual appeal. You can make it bigger during your end of year season and make it like a big thing and a big ask in your actual email newsletter, and in your printed newsletter as well. And then you can have social posts that connect out and tell your story. Sandy, do we have you back? Nope, I thought I might have heard her. So connecting through all of that would be terrific. So ultimately, you really want to have some great stories, and actually one story to tell. Think of your annual appeal as sort of a story arc. What are you going to be telling? What connected stories can you be telling so that you're not repeating the same thing over and over again? Another thing that people have asked is, how do we not wear people out with the same message over and over again? So if you decide that you're going to be telling one sort of a story, maybe you are an animal shelter and you're going to be telling the stories of the homes that pets went to, or maybe you're telling the story of all of the staff and the work that it takes to get a pet ready to go to somebody's home. You can't necessarily tell every story. So focus in and figure out what kind of story you're going to be telling, and use that and get pictures of it and use them in posts throughout the year.
Yeah. Hey, sorry about that. Hey, totally. Back. I did. Lost my connection there. Sorry about that. I like to tell people to think about the stories that are really going to connect emotionally with the reader or the listener. Giving is a very emotional act, and when you're telling a story, it's got to be something that people can relate to, and that's going to pull them emotionally, pull their heartstrings, and make them want to get either their wallet or their checkbook out.
Absolutely. And actually, I'm just popping onto the chat now. I'm sure you guys can see it too. This is great. What you guys are doing is jumping onto the chat to fill in your own things. I think this would be terrific. As Sandy and I are going along answering these questions, if you guys have a way that you do it that you'd like to share with the group, it's incredibly helpful. Amelia's sharing a story right now about how they're doing a holiday promotion and how it works for them. I think that that's terrific. So keep jumping on and sharing your stories with each other, because that's what this is all about. Sandy and I know stuff, but you're all in the trenches every day doing this. You might have some great ideas that somebody else on the call could learn from.
Yes.
The other thing, part of that question was timing. Sandy and I are going to talk a little bit about sort of when to do what. One of the schedules that I like is you're going to send your mailing, so whatever day it is, maybe it's depending on when it is. If you're sending 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, my normal rule is to send an email 2 weeks after the letter. But do keep an eye on if there's another holiday or something else going on in the world that people are paying attention to 2 weeks after your letter goes out, because you do want them to pay attention to your emails when they start going out. And then I like to have people send an increased frequency, like up to maybe 5 or 6 emails, like really do more. I know it's a lot. Everybody always asks me, oh, I want to avoid email fatigue. Everyone's doing it. Yes, everyone's doing it, but the people who really care about you are going to pay attention, even if they've been busy and they haven't had a chance to do it yet. If they want to give to you, they do really appreciate it. And honestly, if people unsubscribe to you because you sent them 5 emails, they're not really your best person. They're not. Yes. They're not your perfect person to be involved. The people who are perfect for you understand why you're doing it, are happy to see it, even if they've already given, even if they're not giving again, they're fine. A lot fewer people unsubscribe because of frequency than you would think, and chances are, my bet is that you are erring on the side of too little communication, not too much. Most people do that. So I would try more of whatever you're doing and see how it works. I mean, if you get to the point where you're really getting crazy amounts of unsubscribes, obviously back off. But the beauty of email, it's fast. You're going to learn this right away. You're going to see, and if on email 2 you're getting crazy amounts of unsubscribes, tailor, go back in, retool your schedule for the rest of the year. You can do that because you're going to see immediately. So I would suggest you do it and do more. And then definitely get a like year end, New Year's Eve, very end of the thing. And that story at that point, I would say definitely start focusing on, hey, taxes, taxes, taxes. Because you don't want to miss the chance to get the people that really did intend to do it for their taxes. They don't want to miss it. Do you have anything else to add there, Sandy?
I do. I'll add a couple of things. One is, yes, you can email too much if your emails are very egocentric.
Right.
If your emails are telling good stories and they're connecting and it's giving people a reason to care, you can email a whole lot more. So there's your tip. If your emails are boring and they're very focused on your organization, your need, your budget, your annual fund, listen, nobody cares. Nobody cares about your annual fund. Nobody cares about your need to keep the lights on. What they care about are the lives that you're changing. So focus on that, and you can email a whole lot more.
Yes, absolutely. Please do not use your annual appeal to say you did a new website, you've launched a new newsletter. Like, this isn't the time to be spewing out facts. You know, you've got your annual, you've got plenty of other places you can spread that information around because, you know, there may be something new on a feature on your website that they can do. But this isn't the place for it.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about segmenting. Shelley asked a question, who should get the annual appeal? Should you send it to people that have never heard of you? Should you find new people, prospects who have never donated? Should you send it to people who haven't donated in a long time? How should you segment? I have some strong feelings about that, but I'm going to let Sandy go first this time.
Okay, sure. Absolutely, you should segment, because the better that you can put people into groups or into buckets, if you will, the better you can watch how they perform as a group, and the better you can respond to them. This time of year is absolutely the time that you want to mail to everybody. Prospects who have never donated, well, absolutely you want to segment them and have a way to measure that, and this time of year they are more likely to give than in any other time of year. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how long should we keep people on our mailing list if they've never given? And I say to them, you know, if you've mailed to them consistently over the last couple of years and they still haven't given, pull them out and use them as an acquisition list during the fall, because chances are good that that list is still going to perform better than any list that you might go rent. So you do want to mail to them. You may need to change the message and change the text just slightly. You can look at people's giving in terms of whether they're hot and they're active donors, they're warm, maybe they haven't given in 15 months to 36 months, and then 36 months plus. And you want to have a way to code all of that. And that's actually pretty easy to do. It doesn't matter if you're doing a print mailing or an email. You can code people and kind of keep up with how well those different groups are performing. And again, it just gives you some better information on going forward.
That's terrific. I'm just going to jump over to the Q&A for a minute just to make sure we get some of these things in. Tracy posted to ask about merging her last 2 years end-of-year appeal campaigns. She said the last 2 years have been really great for different reasons, but she's new to the organization, and she's wondering if she should merge those 2 campaigns and put a current twist on it. Tracy, I guess I'm wondering, by merging, do you mean merging the people that you sent it to or merging the message? I'm going to start assuming that you mean merging the message. If you mean something different, post in the box and let me know and I'll take a look. So, because we're just talking about this sort of segmenting, merging. If you're talking about sort of, did people get these in the past, merging those 2 lists from the last 2 years, I would say if you've got aspects of your last 2 years that you think is really working, whether it's the messaging that you're using or the groups that you're sending it to, if it's working, I would definitely recommend putting a little twist on it. You don't want to literally send the exact same letter every year. Yeah. I know it's been a year and people haven't seen it, but especially if you're not a frequent communicator and you're like, this is the one thing that you're doing, they're going to start to feel like you're feeling stale, and they're just giving, like, they're going to feel like you're putting them on autopilot. Wouldn't you say that, Sandy?
Yes, absolutely. Although I think you probably could send the same appeal out, and I don't think anybody would notice because the donors just don't pay that much attention.
Right.
But
Think that they do.
yeah, just as a matter of best practice, you do want to look at your messaging, because the thing is, you should be learning all the time. And between last year and now, you should have learned something about how to do your message better, how to communicate it better, and you probably can just flat do a better job. So I think as a matter of best practice, you always want to be looking at a way to make it a little bit better, a little bit fresher, a little bit sharper.
And I think that seems like what Tracy's asking. She actually followed up to say she's talking about taking the most responsive parts of each campaign and reusing them. Tracy, I would say that's it. That's exactly, I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Okay. Now we're going to be moving on to Giving Tuesday, which is going to get us into the holiday season. So that'll give us a chance to answer, to address what Amelia is talking about with this Giving Tree project that she did. If anybody doesn't have a chance to get onto the Q&A that's at the bottom, Amelia posts what she's doing for her holiday Giving Tree that's online. That's awesome. $30,000 from matching donors. She's doing a program that starts right after Thanksgiving and runs to New Year's Eve. I love the idea that as part of your annual communication, you're doing a really focused campaign. Is it Karen, the person who was asking earlier about that they're a brand new organization, I think it might have been Karen, that you mostly have your social media people that you've got, you don't have that, and someone's going to be asking later, I have another question coming up about that you don't have a lot of people in your email campaign. This is a great idea to do something super focused. I think it's terrific. Okay.
I'll jump in and say the only thing that bothers me about that is that's a really long time for a campaign. To go basically 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks, it's a really long time. So, Amelia, you just need to be prepared to keep it fresh and to find a way to keep it in front of people, especially since it's online. You know, like 5 weeks of regular time that's like 7 years in online time. It's kind of like dog years. The time is different. Find a way to keep it fresh, because you don't want to be going back in front of people with the same graphics, the same message over and over and over and over. At some point, they're going to get really tired of it. So just be ready to handle that.
Absolutely. And she asked a follow-up question about, do you send different emails to different segments? And usually what I try and tell people is that's the ideal situation. Ideally to segment, the minimum segmentation I always tell people to do is segment out the people who have never given to you before, so that you don't say thank you for everything you've done for us in the past. Yep. Segment out the people that have given to you before, so that you can say thank you for everything that you've done for us in the past. And then segment out your really top, really loyal, long-term donors, so that you can really demonstrate that they're fabulous and that you really love and appreciate them. And they should really get, in addition to the segmentation, whatever personalization touch you can possibly give. At a minimum level, like, of course there's lots and lots of other ways to segment it. Like if somebody literally they had a very small staff, they don't have a lot of time, they don't have a great database, would you agree, Sandy, that at the bare minimum that's the ideal thing to do?
Absolutely. And I'll say to Amelia, because I know Amelia's organization, and this is going to be the same for Karen, these ladies are both working in animal rescue, I would segment out adopters as well. So for everybody else, look at your audience and think about different groups that you can easily identify, easily tag, and they have specific things in common. So for some of you, it may be people who have used your service, or they have a family member that has benefited from your service, because they have a different experience with your organization, and you can speak to them specifically based on that experience that they've had with you, and that gives you just a different way to connect and build a relationship.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, so we're going to jump over and talk a little bit about integrating Giving Tuesday into your year-end. This is a huge question. Everybody's asking this question right now. Kia and Cindy both asked it, and someone else asked it on the next slide. What's the best way to integrate Giving Tuesday into your year-end strategy? How do you keep it from diluting and confusing the year-end messages? Kia, that is a great question, because that is a really important thing to think about. And then Cindy asked, do you recommend and ask for something specific, or is it general ask to the fund? Okay. And then Deb took that the next step further and said that they secured a matching grant. So let's talk a little bit about, okay, so you've got Giving Tuesday over here. It's sort of right in the middle of everything else that you're doing. Do you stop everything, run over and do that? Do you make it the same as everything, different? Sandy, what are some things that you're thinking of?
Well, I think first of all, let's define, just in case anybody's not familiar with Giving Tuesday, and make sure that they know what the heck that is. You know, the Monday after Thanksgiving, isn't that Cyber Monday?
Yeah. Before that, it's Black Friday.
That's right. Black Friday and then Cyber Monday when people are buying holiday gifts online. And then Giving Tuesday is pretty new, and it's a phenomenon that encourages people to make charitable gifts on that Tuesday after Thanksgiving. It's gaining a lot of momentum, so if you're not already planning to do something, you need to be planning for this. I think you absolutely want to integrate it with everything else you have going on, because when you can put one consistent message out to the community, it's just going to be easier for you, it's going to be less confusing for your audience, and it's going to help you get more traction. So I would absolutely integrate the messaging, and it could be that if you're doing a direct mail piece, make sure that whatever message you put in there is something that you can use online for Giving Tuesday. You can use it for your year-end online campaign. You can get the most mileage that you can out of that message. And by the way, it's not support our annual fund. Nobody cares about your annual fund. So if you can point to something specific that you know you need a lot of, or it's your main program. So for example, I spent many years at my local food bank. If I were at the food bank now, what I would be using as a message is, people are going hungry, we can help, you can help us make sure that they have a full belly for the holidays. Well, I can use that message in a lot of different ways, and of course I would want to polish it up and make it very hooky and very emotional, but I can use that same concept in a lot of different ways, and it has nothing to do with my annual fund and everything to do with what people really want to support.
That's great. I love that messaging. And people are asking questions about, you know, I think what Deb's talking about, that they've secured a matching gift. If you can do that, it is great on both sides. First of all, it gives you something to reach out to a donor. Chances are all of you have somebody in your circle that loves you and would love to do more and would love to do something special. This is a great opportunity to help give them what they want. We have to stop thinking about this as begging or asking people to help you. People who are involved with you because they love the outcome of what you're doing. And if they can help make that outcome happen in a fun, interesting way, they will really get a kick of it, and they will love that you thought of them for it. So find somebody that you think could do it, pitch them an idea, see if they have an idea, and see what you can come out of that, because they're getting a matching grant is a super great way to focus people's attention on the experience of a giving day. So Giving Tuesday is one thing, but ultimately what it is it's an example of an online giving event. And there's a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement that comes out of that. And online giving events actually attract 60% of the people that give to a giving event are new donors, historically, statistically. So by getting involved in Giving Tuesday, especially those of you that are saying your lists aren't big enough, you don't have enough people, to be able to get new people to find you, attract you, and be interested in you by what you're sharing online. And it doesn't have to just be online. I was on a webinar yesterday with Donor Perfect, and one of the speakers on the webinar there said they actually did most of their Giving Tuesday ask through emails, and they had a huge reception. They made great money. They did really, really well. So don't think that Giving Tuesday only means doing an online event. If you're not there yet, or your executive director thinks Facebook is stupid, it's okay. You can still participate. So here's a couple of resources for you. So I was just saying that I was on this webinar yesterday. So Donor Perfect. This is somebody asked, you know, what can I tell people to say that this is worth it? They did statistics. So Donor Perfect is, if you don't know them, they are one of the softwares, like a back-end software for managing nonprofit donations. It's like a CRM system for nonprofits. Great company. They work with about 6,000 small and mid-size nonprofits, and so they have a good sampling of people. They did a survey out to their people, and in what they said, people who participated in Giving Tuesday did twice as well financially in 2013 as those who did not. I don't know. That's a strong statistic. If you go anywhere, you will find tons and tons of information to support these statistics. As I said, I do a podcast called Driving Participation. A few weeks ago, I had Jamie McDonald, who works for nonprofit Network for Good. She works for Network for Good, and she did a show for me called Turning Online Events into a Party for Your Cause, which, first of all, Hilarious title. I love it. She was great. She gave out so much good information and a ton of good links. So I have a web page on my website that has links to Giving Tuesday, has links to a PDF ebook, which is like a guide to Giving Tuesday. It has links to a PowerPoint presentation that Network for Good did. All kinds of really good stuff there. And it has a link to Giving Tuesday. I think I might have said that. Definitely go look at Giving Tuesday's website. They are good people. Even if you don't do Giving Tuesday, they have toolkits. They have webinars you can go to. Just listen and learn. You might either get an idea for this year or get the support you need to start something next year. So that's one. So here's a couple more ideas. This is also from the webinar from Donor Perfect yesterday. I thought this was really cute. Somebody used Giving Tuesday the opposite way. They actually used Giving Tuesday to give to their donor base. They used it to send letters, actually not to their donor base, but to people, to their community. So they used that day, they wrote letters to people in their community, and then they shared it socially. Like, they let people know that that's how they used, that's what they were going to do on Giving Tuesday. Well, how much you want to bet they got money just for that? Like, they didn't actually ask for money. They said, here's this awesome thing that we're going to do to support the people that you care about, and people gave them money. Amazing. Maybe you can do it a different way. This is sort of one of the kind of benchmark Giving Tuesday campaigns that everybody talks about this. This is from Baltimore. It's worth looking at. It's ginormous. So it may be, don't look at it and though think, geez, there's no way we could do anything like that. The message I want you to get out of what Baltimore did is really two things. Look at the visual consistency. Granted, they came up with a logo. You don't have to go that far. But even just looking at this one page, if you go out and Google Baltimore, Be More Gives More, everything that you will see will look like a branded campaign. That makes a difference. It helps with recall, and it builds an impression. And when you create an impression, you're kind of managing what people think of you. It's really, really important how things look. So as I always say, look like you mean it, and people will trust you. The other thing that's important about the Baltimore campaign, the reason it works so well, is that they went outside their four walls. Okay, it's a city, but you know what I mean. They reached out to all the different types of organizations. They connected cultural organizations and all different people together. I think we have a tendency, I know I have a tendency to kind of think like a lone wolf and think, well, I can't work with others because they may be competition. In something like this, they're not. It really seems to work well with Giving Tuesday when you bring people together and like all ships rise on the tide. So think about that, and who could you maybe pull together to support you, and then you get into each other's networks. People that care about your cause care usually in every way about your cause. And then I think this is the last thing I want to show you. This is a fun little thing that we're doing. Another aspect to Giving Tuesday is, and about giving in general, is I think sometimes we think about ourselves all the time. Sandy mentioned that in the beginning, that if you're just talking about yourself, me, give, you're right, people are going to get bored. They're going to not be interested in your message, and we're just putting the same thing out, everything. So we came up with this idea to do a fun little, it's a week-long campaign from the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to the Wednesday after Giving Tuesday, and it's a countdown clock to Giving Tuesday to kind of get people thinking about it, get them focused on, hey, Giving Tuesday's coming, but it gets them focused on it in the things that they're interested in. It's about the shopping, it's about the eating and the cooking and Thanksgiving. It sort of says, hey, we know you're real people with a real life, and that caring about us is just one of the many things that you do. We get it. Enjoy the week, have fun, and then think about us. And it intersperses a few little things, like through these fun things. Like on day 3, we have a post that says, "Are you on our list?" And it sort of has a little bit of a like, "Are you on our holiday list, guard list?" But we're going to pair that with a post that gives a link to your email campaign. So for those of you that don't have enough people on your email, posting things to say, are you on our email list, whether you use our campaign or not, post something, a graphic that says, are you on our list? And then post a link to that list in the body of whatever social media that you're using to get people to join your list right in the beginning of the season so that you have more people to mail out to. Okay, so I got to make sure that I'm rolling along here. Okay, so from Whitney, here I think I've mentioned Whitney's question a couple of times. Of course, I forgot it was from Whitney. So Whitney has about 25% of the email addresses of our full mailing list. Okay, Whitney, I just want to say, I'm sure everybody that's on the call feels your pain. So many people are in this situation, sometimes because your list is older and email didn't exist. It's probably maybe too late for that. But most of the time this happens is because people are not asking for emails ever enough or in all the places that you could. That's pretty much my answer to that. So I'm going to get back to ways to do that, but I'm going to let Sandy jump in on what are some of the ways to combat the situation that you have right now.
Well, you know, the obvious easy answer is ask. Ask people for their email address. One of the things that you can do starting next week is do a thank you campaign. You could pick up the phone and call literally all the people on your list and just thank them for their support and ask them for their email address. If they would like to hear from you, maybe even faster updates or more information, you never want to just say to somebody, hey, do you want to join my list? Because really, who wants that? You have to give them a reason to say yes. And if you thank them and then tell them if they want to hear more information, find out firsthand or get the latest news, they may be more interested in doing that. But just ask. You also have to know full well that some people are never going to give you their email. If anything, we are all inundated with email these days, and some people may say no. That may be a great way to give you a touch point to build relationships and also get that email address that you want.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And the other thing I always say is that's a great thing to get your board involved with. A lot of times people struggle with, you know, having their board members do the things they actually want them to do. So I always try and tell people, give them some soft things to do and give them a really prescribed things. Thank you very much. We appreciate that you've been involved. Here's a really cool thing that we were able to do this year because you were involved. We'd love to be able to share this stuff more with you. Could we have your email address? That's it. Really, really simple. So, you know, have them thank, give them one little tidbit of a thing to share with the person, and then they ask, and it's just an ask for an email address. So that does two things. It gets the board members involved in the way they should be involved. It lets them practice calling people to ask them for something that isn't money, and it gets you an email address. So it's like good all around. So I'm all for that. So start now to ask people to get them. So okay, so that may or may not work. You know, depending on how many people they have to start helping them ask, they may get it. So what are some other ideas for getting the message out this year if you only really have a quarter of the people on email without spending a ton of money?
Yeah. Well, you know, you could do a postcard campaign. I've seen organizations do that. It's a little less expensive than a full-blown letter. You could pitch a story to the local media. A lot of the local media are very hungry for feel-good stories, especially the week after Christmas. They're just looking for great stories that are sort of evergreen that they can share. So that's another way. You could create a video. You know, this is another thing you could do if you had board members or volunteers calling people to say thank you. One really good reason to get an email address is so that you can share a video that shows the coolest thing that happened to your organization all year. Now, that means you're going to have to put the video together, but some people might want to see that, and that gives you a whole nother reason to ask for that. But once you get that video put together, that can go on your Facebook page, it can go on your website, it can go in a lot of places. You could also put a link to it in email that you would send out to the people you do have email addresses for and ask them to share it. Exactly.
I love that. That's a great idea. And I would also say, video when you actually film it in video, editing that is like the black hole of death. Like unless you have some intern or like a teenage child you can conscript to do that, or can afford to pay somebody to do it, that can be a big undertaking, especially in the amount of time that you have left. But I guarantee you have pictures. And it is not that difficult to use something like Picasa or iMovie, or there's an online tool that I really like. They've switched to like a subscription model, which I don't love. You used to be able to do it on a one-off thing, but there's online tools that you can use. Of course, I'm drawing a complete blank on the name of it, so I'll have to email it to you when I'm done. But Google Online, there's lots of easy ways that you can really do a slideshow, and you can do two things. You can do a slideshow with a voiceover, or you can just insert, like, so you have a slide, but like you could use Canva, C-A-N-V-A, is a great little picture editing tool. It's a great way to take a picture and words and put them together so that they look nice, which some people call that graphic. I had somebody tell me once, we don't need you to do graphic design. We just need you to put the words and the pictures together so they look nice. Like, that's kind of sort of what graphic design is. But now there's a really good tool. I mean, we do this for a living, but for very little money, you can jump on and do this. I think there's even a free version of it. It's incredible.
Yes,
nice
there
designs,
is.
really simple stuff. I also, though, want to warn you, I have a friend that says that Canva has done an excellent job of helping her make really ugly stuff really cheaply. So I still want to advise you, they've got lots of fun colors, they've got lots of fun fonts. Just remember, don't turn it into like a font circus. One of the things I'm actually going to be doing down the road is doing a design course for people so that they are able to use tools like Canva without it looking like, as I say, Christmas threw up on the lawn kind of thing. So those are some great tools, and a quick little video. Absolutely ask people to share it, and then if you even put that kind of a thing behind we call it a paywall. So we would call a video like that a lead magnet. So it's LEAD, a lead magnet. So what you would want to do if you have an email system. I don't know how well Constant Contact does this, but more sophisticated email systems like MailChimp and Aweber do an excellent job of this. If you want to get people to give you their email, one of the best ways to do it is to give them something that they want in exchange for it. Case in point, this webinar. You all gave me your email because you wanted to participate in this webinar. So people will give you their email, and then at the end of that, you send them to a page that says, watch the video here. Thank you very much for your email. Put a little step in there. Make them get something that they want, and promote. Like, you could promote in your email, hey, we have this great video we'd love you to see. Put a screenshot of it, so of the kid crying or of the cute little puppy, something really emotional that would make, and a great headline. People will give you their email if they really are interested. All right, so I'm going to move on. Okay, Lisa and Cindy, I love this because this is so me. I start writing an appeal, and then it gets lost in the stuff on my desk, and then and in all the interruptions. I'm the same way. I'm the boss of my organization. I have a staff of people. Getting brain clear time so that I can write and think. Challenging. How about you, Sandy?
Yes, ditto. Sign me up for that club.
Exactly. So I'm sure probably everybody on the call, we're all with you. So we're going to talk about how do we come up with something fresh, and also from a design perspective. So, Sandy, what are your great tips for coming up with fresh new ideas for writing when you don't have a lot of time, you've got to get this done, you're being interrupted?
Okay, so one of the things that I used to do when I was a development director and I needed an idea, I would always go to the front line of my organization and just immerse myself. When I was at the food bank, I would just go sit in the warehouse for a little while. When I worked in an after-school program, I would go sit and play with the kids for a little while, and it always gave me some inspiration. Another thing that I like to do is to take somebody on a tour and listen to their reaction, especially if it's the first time they've seen the organization. They're going to say things like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this sort of need existed or that you all were here doing this. They would say the words that I could then turn around and use in an appeal. And the beautiful thing about that, it was exactly the words that somebody else would use. So it was always very conversational, it was very fresh, it was very spot on. And it always gave me a great perspective to turn around then and write something. Because the worst thing you can do is write we're a great organization, we've been doing this, blah, blah, blah. It needs to be fresh, and that's the best place to get that stuff is from somebody who's seeing it for the first time.
That's a great idea. I love that. And since Sandy's more on the writing side, I'm more on the design side, I'm going to show you this because it was hilarious. This was actually on Sophie's email this morning, and so I had to jump in and put it on here. If you don't know Sophie, it's SOFII.org. Is that right? I'm hoping that's what it is.
Yes, it is.
They are a UK organization that collects all kinds of great ideas and samples and results of nonprofit mailings, nonprofit videos, all kinds of nonprofit ideas, primarily communication ideas, I think, and maybe other things. Maybe I'm just paying attention to the communication stuff because I'm interested in that. Absolutely. Sign up for Sophie's email address and you'll get lots of cool ideas. This was just one. So they showed this in their email. I was like, wow, that's a lot to look at. But then they talked about it. You click on and they basically do like a little case study of who did this, why they did it, what made them go this direction, and how it worked. It's so helpful. Lots of fun brainstorming. I mean, this is a totally different. You want an out there idea? There you go. But this may be too much for your organization. Not everybody needs to do a brochure or a postcard or something really, really graphical. I know I'm a graphic designer by training and by heart, but I'm not going to necessarily say to you, you always need to do lots of highly designed stuff in the mail. There's all kinds of ways to communicate with people. Here's an example. This is one of the very first toolkits that we created. So at the moment, we have 3 different designs for an annual appeal toolkit. For those of you that want something maybe a little more designed than you can come up with on your own or do in your shop, but maybe doing something like fully designed like a brochure, okay, that's too much for you. If you need something fully designed like a brochure, my Iris Creative site, we can help you with that if you should need it. But these are some already put together toolkits. They're built in Word, which we hate you for, but we love you enough to build the stuff in Word. We usually do stuff in more complicated tools than that. But I'm really committed to trying to get tools that, as I say, look like we did it, but somehow put it back into your hands, because it's expensive to use a creative firm on every single thing that you do. So we created these toolkits. They have a legal size letter. There's a 2-page version. There's a 3-page version in case you want to write a really long letter. There's a thank you note. There's an inside envelope, an outside envelope, a header for your email, and a little donate. Remember I talked about earlier the little donation box that you can put on your website, plus a couple of little social media graphics that you can use and put your pictures on, like to tell that story all like throughout your year. You could swap out the text on a social media graphic and leave, can you imagine, put a photo of something that happened during the course of your year, and then put a little note and tell a little story in the Facebook post. So can you imagine this happened? Here's a picture, write a story in Facebook. You can spin that out with all kinds of pictures and all kinds of stories throughout the entire giving season. Take a little break, start it up again in the spring. Oh, I've seen that design before. It's to kind of give you a cohesive look and a couple of tools that really help you pull everything together in a way that's a lot faster and hopefully easier for you. So that's one of the things that we've been doing, another idea for you. So I just want to jump over now. We are about, we said we do about an hour, but we can do as long as you guys, if you have questions, we're here. So I just want to jump over and make sure I'm taking a look at the chat box to make sure you guys are doing a really awesome job of answering each other. So we answered Amelia's questions about the email segments. Thanks, Amelia, for answering everybody else's questions. Tracy's jumping in. I answered Amelia's question about that it was called a lead magnet. So what if we missed? You guys did an awesome job coming up with a really great range of questions to pitch in. Is there anything we didn't cover? And while you're thinking about that, just pop your questions in there. There are a couple of questions that I kind of didn't put into the thing because they were more specific. But since we have a couple of minutes while I'm waiting to see if anybody pops in, and if there's anything that I missed, I think I've paid attention to everything that you guys have asked here. If I missed anything, let me know.
Looks like Amelia had one question there about appealing to adopters on social media for stories and pictures. Absolutely. You want to be asking people for their stories all the time.
And by all the time, she means all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was me, I would put it in a box, a highlight box, on every newsletter that goes out, every print newsletter, every e-newsletter, and I would make like a graphic, like a social media graphic, like I just showed you on the earlier pages. I would make a social media graphic that is like share your story, that kind of a graphical thing, and then write a standard post, and then I would use some sort of like a scheduling tool and just schedule that so it goes out on a regular basis. Like you can send it out in social media, like depending on the social media. Twitter, you can have a crazy amount of frequency all the time on Twitter. Chances are people aren't going to see you, but these days, I'm sure you all know, Facebook's changing, and a very small percentage of people are actually seeing your posts on Facebook. I still wouldn't post more than maybe 1 to 3 times a day on Facebook, because whether people are seeing it or not, it can get people just don't want an organization in their newsfeed that often. So I still wouldn't go too crazy with that. But there's other places. I have to tell you, somebody asked a question about LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, I'm having the best luck with LinkedIn. However, I'm an individual. So when I market, I'm the president of my company. So when I market using my personal profile, awesome. It's all coming to me. You have to think about whether, like, if you want to use your personal profile to market on behalf of your organization, not everybody's going to want to do that. And LinkedIn has recently changed how the company pages worked. They used to have status updates. They used to really broadcast stuff well. They've tightened a lot of that up, and you can't put as much stuff on. You can still put posts on a company page. So I still would recommend making a company page. Okay, I know your organizations. LinkedIn doesn't care. You're all companies to them. So it's still called a company page. Go into there and make a company page. The cool thing about that is you can make more than one administrator on it, because the risk in a lot of social media profiles is the person that creates it sort of owns that profile. And then, back in like 2009, everyone was having like their intern make their social media page, and 3 months later, they didn't have a social media page anymore because the intern would leave, they'd have no way to contact them, and their presence was gone. Yep. So, but social media sites don't really love you doing it on a totally like fake profile. They really boost a lot of that stuff out. So they're doing a much better job at letting multiple administrators. So now LinkedIn Pages lets you have multiple administrators, and Google, so on Google Plus, a personal profile doesn't. But I actually just learned the other day that Google Plus has just added a multi-admin feature to a Google Plus page. And I know you all think Google Plus is ridiculous, and you're not there because it's all just geeks like me that are out there dorking out about marketing. Okay, you're right, but still, it's growing. So number one, it's growing like crazy. Number two, Google hasn't killed it yet. And what Google doesn't kill, Google invests in. And Google, you have to understand, all the PhDs in the world are working for, the ones that aren't working at nonprofits, they're all working at Google. So they're really, really smart people. They're going to make this work. It's going to grow, and they're really using social signals like what people are doing on Google Plus as a factor in search. They won't actually tell you this, but they are. That's part of the reason Sandy and I are doing this through Google Hangouts today, because this is going to then automatically save in a Hangout. It's right now we're recording right over to YouTube, so it's creating a YouTube video. If I leave that there, that's going to tell Google we are active on their properties, and Google likes that. So that's an important thing to think about. Okay, so let me just check over here. Sandy, did you see anything else we didn't answer over here in the questions that are popping up? Okay, so what about making an appeal? Okay, so we asked about this appeal for social stories. Do you see any drawbacks for using Giving Tuesday as a jumping off point as your end of year campaign? Now, Tracy, the only thing I think about that is it might be a little bit late. What do you think, Sandy?
It could be, but if you're starting right now and you can't get it together to get something out, at least
then go for it.
At least a week and a half before Thanksgiving, then it's going to be fine. I think you have to really watch the timing, especially if you're in the United States. Once you get closer to Thanksgiving than about a week and a half, you're going to lose people. They're busy thinking about their Thanksgiving dinner, their meal, the family that's coming to visit and all that kind of stuff, and they're not going to pay attention either to your mailing or your email. So if you can't get something out by about the middle of November, then go ahead and look at that first week. And in that case, Tracy, you really could use Giving Tuesday as a jumping off point.
Absolutely. Okay, so then, do I have this right? Okay, so Amelia's asking about how often email newsletters should be sent a month, and a print version, and should both go to the same people again, or segment the audiences. First of all, Amelia, I love that you're still talking about a print version. Everybody thinks print is dead. I've been doing print 30 years. I run a business. Let me tell you, print's not dead. We're still doing a ton of print. People still give from a ton of print. The funny thing is, people think that people don't give from print and that it's only the old people giving on print or reading print or participating in it. But it's not, and people think that there's no older people on social media and giving online, and that's not true. So pretty much everything we assume is wrong. So people love having print, and the thing that it's hard for people to forget is that being in different tracks actually helps engage different parts of people's brains, and they see you in different places. So if they're at the office and they get an email from you, and then they go home and there's an email, a physical printed piece in their mailbox, they're going to probably tuck that newsletter into their bag, and they're going to see it every time they pull it out. It still works. People still like to page through things. They really, really work. Having them complement each other for like a print news and an e-news for your standard stuff, I think works really well. In fact, somebody just suggested to me that we start creating matching templates for people for their standard things. So if you guys think that's a good idea, let me know.
Yeah.
I also think that it's okay to have a template that's different, specifically for your annual appeal asks, less design heavy. You don't want necessarily do people have to wade through a ton of design to get to your ask. It should have a look. It should have some design. It shouldn't just be some random, like, spammy looking email. You should build some trust by having a style and a look to it, but I think that all of that's really good. If possible, my recommendation right now for people, if you could do a monthly print and a monthly email, that'd be awesome. If your donors would tolerate a monthly print and a weekly email, that's awesome. Not every donor base will tolerate that. Yeah. What's most realistic for small and medium-sized organizations is a monthly regular email and either a quarterly or 3 times a year print newsletter. And the key thing to a print newsletter, and if you want to know more about sort of how making a print newsletter work from a fundraising perspective, go look up Tom Ahern. It's Ahern, and I'll make sure I spell that out in the chat because my voice is terrible. Tom Ahern. He has some really great stuff. He has really, really strong opinions, just letting you know. But he, and I completely agree with him. Make sure you tuck that envelope, you stick that envelope in your printed newsletters. Make your printed newsletters pay for themselves by asking all the time, even if it's not your giving season. Maybe not blatantly, maybe subtly, but you want to create an email newsletter a print newsletter that's so warm and so engaging and so inspirational that people feel compelled to give, and that you give them easy ways to do it. So the print newsletter is not so much about ask. It's about inspire and then. And so that would definitely be the thing that I would say. So that would be the frequency. I would like say, if you have a different rate or a different opinion on how often you would do things.
I would totally agree that either 3 or 4 times a year for a print newsletter and then monthly for email is a great way to go. That's a good combination, and it's real doable, especially if you lay out a template of the content. If you have an idea of exactly the kinds of pieces you want to put in that email newsletter and in the print, then it becomes fill in the blank, and you can train yourself to look for the stories that you want to be sure and include in that. Now, I totally agree with you about the kinds of people who are going to respond to that. Most organizations have a lot of baby boomers as their best donors, and those people absolutely will respond to print. So you don't want to stop doing print because of cost reasons, and the most important reason to do either print or email is because that's what your donors want. You never make a decision about which way to give out information because of what you want. It's always about what your donors want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then they also ask, so you should send the yearly mailing to everyone. I think yes, don't you, Sandy?
Yes, yes.
Right. And so, yes, some older major donors don't want to do the internet. That's fine, and that's why you still need print. And even in your print things, though, make sure you give options to get on your mailing list, to get onto the email list, and to give online. I used to think, maybe people used to do this, that people who were in one track stayed in that track. So if you're in the print track, you're going to then be a check writer. And if you're in the online track, you're going to be a button clicker. But statistics are actually proving that that is not true. People are crossing tracks all the time. So give them the ability in both media, like give them the ability. So to do that. Obviously, if they're in your email track, they're probably already on there, but maybe somebody just gave you their email address. So one of the things I would suggest is if you're maybe occasionally on your emails, give people an opportunity to send their full address to you if they should want your print email. Maybe you only have email. Maybe somebody just gave online and just gave your their email address. I would still try and get their actual mailing list because it's more information for you to have to be able to use. Okay, so Deborah, thanks. I didn't realize that. Deborah's letting me know that chat roll is only letting 10 people on at a time. Thank you very much. So I will make sure that now I know that it's the first time we've used chat roll and we got a great recommendation for it. So I will either come up with another version of it or find another tool for next time. So thanks, Deborah, and I am very sorry about that. Anybody that's listening that was not able to get onto chat roll that has a question, I'm going to jump forward, and on the last page I'm going to have our email addresses. Please feel free. Sandy and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that we didn't get to. Right, Sandy? I'm not speaking out of turn, am I?
No, absolutely. I am known.
Sandy will be happy to answer your questions.
That's right. I am known for sticking around and answering questions.
Exactly. So we will. Anybody that needs to jump off, we're about 10 minutes after 4. If you need to go, you should go. We'll be here for a few more minutes to make sure we've answered everything. Just some ways you can get in touch with us. A couple of things you need to know. On the page you're looking at, there's a big yellow box that shows a big yellow box that has a gift code. Sandy and I both do consulting work. We'll be more than happy to help you, but we also have some really, affordable products that can help you push this stuff along faster this year. So if you need anything, we want to offer you all a 20% discount on anything that you should need. Sandy is at Get Fully Funded. She has some amazing kits. Sandy, do you want to talk a little bit about a couple of things that you've got going on right now?
I would be happy to. We have our signature system is called Get Fully Funded, How to Raise the Money of Your Dreams, and it walks you step by step through everything you need to do to really ramp up the amount of money that you're raising for your annual operations. We also have an ebook called The Small Nonprofits Guide to Raising Money Through the Mail, and it is specifically about direct mail in print. So if you need some help either figuring out what you should include, when to mail, who to mail to, how to measure your success, you may want to have a look at that ebook. It's very affordably priced, and we do have a coupon code for you that you can use to save 20% off of that.
Fabulous. And definitely go to Sandy's website because these are just a few of her products. They're all amazing. She's got all kinds of different things. She's got a great tool for your board. So if they don't help you as much as you want this giving season, you might want to jump on that one. I have Iris Creative, so if you happen to need anything custom or need some help thinking through any of this stuff, we can do some work with you for that. And then Nonprofit Toolkit has a bunch of different things. We have these annual appeal toolkits. At the moment, we have 3 of them. Next year, we're going to have probably 6 more that we're going to be launching. I have an annual appeal campaign, so I have an ebook that I wrote that's specifically about how you start introducing your website, your email, social media into the mix and scheduling it all out. If you can see from the little page right here, there's also an Excel spreadsheet that comes with that tells you, helps you keep on track. It basically tells you if this is the month that you're doing this stuff in, here are all the different tasks for each of those different things that you should be doing now. So I call it this is how you keep all the balls in the air tool. So that's sort of a bullet listed version, and then the ebook is really fleshing out all those bullets and telling you, okay, that's a bullet point, but here's how you would actually execute on that bullet point. So that can be really helpful if you're really trying to expand beyond just your letter and do more and integrate other tools. It can be helpful for you. Then the new thing that we're doing, I just showed you a couple of screens of it earlier in the presentation, but we're going to be doing this little 7-day post. It's just going to be 7 social media posts with the words that go with it that you could start posting the Wednesday before Giving Tuesday to the day after. So if you're crazy swamped with everything else, you cannot figure out how to get onto Giving Tuesday and you just need something and you want to boost it, do this. If you've already got your Giving Tuesday program going that's totally linked to your brand and you just want to kick it up a notch in the last week, this is just fun way to sort of really, people love fun, especially on social media. We all deal with a lot of heavy topics, and it's nice to sometimes break it up with something that's a little more lighter and fun and interesting to the donor without going so far as putting pictures of fat cats on your Facebook page.
Although cats are very effective.
I know, they can be. They can be. So thank you very much. We will stay here. I'm going to keep an eye on the questions for a few minutes, and this is how you get in touch with us. My page just shrunk a little bit, so hopefully you can still see it. I will be sending a follow-up email to everybody with our contact information. I truly hope that this has been helpful for you. Sandy and I wish you the best for your annual appeal season and for your giving overall. If there's any way that we can help you, please let us know. Sandy, anything else final?
Everybody have a great day. Keep talking about the work you're doing and how you're changing lives. That's going to be the key to fundraising.
Fabulous. All right, thank you very much. I am going to stop the broadcast now, and we will keep an eye on the chat. And have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.